then we say that cash plus interest-bearing securities should not exceed 33% of total assets. The third requirement is that receivables to the company should not exceed 33% of market capitalization. If these conditions are fulfilled, we say that this is a Sharia compliant business.
Good.
And this type of business is most relevant when it comes to investing in stocks in stock markets around the world. The third category is Tamkeen, what you alluded to, businesses owned by Muslims.
Yes.
So we call them Muslim-owned businesses, and these businesses can be or cannot be Sharia compliant.
Okay.
Right? And for example, as you said, a corner shop owned by a Muslim would be a Muslim-owned business, but if it sells alcohol, a restaurant owned by a Muslim, but if it sells alcohol, still okay, this will be a Muslim-owned business, but not a Sharia-compliant business.
Right, good.
So, when it comes to investing in stock markets, the relevant business is actually Sharia-compliant business.
Right.
Why? Because the first category, pure Islamic business, there are very few pure Islamic business in the whole world. So if you say that it is permissible only to invest in purely Islamic businesses, you won't be able to find any Islamic company on a stock market.
And also in the time of the prophets, everyone was trading, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in all sorts of things. And then Islam came about, and they were still trading. They didn't stop trading.
No, trading, Islam doesn't have any problems with that. Actually, the word for business in the classical fiqh books is actually trade.
Right.
So business means trade in Islamic fiqh books.
Right.
So Islam actually encourages trade. So there is no problem with that. But there are principles how to trade. Right. And there are detailed guidelines in the books on Islamic law. There are certain things which you can do, certain things which you can't do. So the second category, Sharia compliant businesses, their stocks can be bought and sold by Muslims through stock exchanges. The third category, which is businesses owned by Muslims, the experts in Islamic finance would say that this category is not open for investing by the Muslims because this is not a Sharia compliant business. So the only category which is relevant in the today's stock markets is Sharia compliant businesses, and there are hundreds and thousands of Islamic stocks available to invest for those who would like to go for Sharia compliant investing.
Thank you very much. Excellent. Thank you.
Well, just touching on the stock market investing. Now, I've been an investor in the stock market, and most private investors, they are not really investing as such, like holding the stock and waiting for dividends. There's something called speculation, so they always speculate, so they look for the price to increase and then they sell it. Now, I heard from some brothers that that's haram, that's the haram element. Is that true or false? Can you clarify?
There are two aspects of investing in stocks, as you rightly mentioned. There are some investors who are looking for capital gains. I buy a stock for $1 today, hoping that after 6 months its price would go up to $1.5. Capital gain, if this is the objective, this objective is recognized in Islam. Okay. This is a speculative activity. Okay. I speculate based on my knowledge, based on the information I have got. If I believe that Sainsbury's stock is undervalued today, this is going to go up in price in the next 90 days, it is only rational for me to buy that stock. So from Sharia viewpoint, no problem with that, as long as Sainsbury's stock is Sharia compliant.
Right, okay.
Now the second thing, there are so many stocks which are non-dividend paying stocks. Right? what happens, okay, if a company doesn't pay dividends, okay, the profits earned, they're actually put back into the business. So that, that is reflected in the price of that stock.
Yeah.
Right. So this is why it is legitimate to look for capital gain. There's so many stocks which are not dividend paying. It doesn't mean that those stocks should not be available for Islamic investors. So one way is directly looking for dividends, okay, which is fine as well. The other one is indirectly looking for a capital gain if the number one, the company does not pay all the profit in the form of dividends. Sometimes there are some retained earnings as well.
Yeah.
If the retained earnings are huge, this means that the profits are plowed back into the business, and that should be reflected in the price of the stock.
Yeah.
So from Sharia viewpoint, okay, I have this habit of saying the things in unambiguous way. From Sharia viewpoint, there is nothing wrong for someone to speculate genuinely on the price of a stock. It makes only business sense to go for this kind of activity, and Islam is a rational religion. It doesn't go against our intellect. If I can make money for myself, for my company, and others who have entrusted their money to me by having some information and using that information in a smart way for my favor, Islam doesn't have any problems with that. Islam favors smart investors.
And I totally agree with you, and most people are really misinformed about the stock market. They think it's a bit of gambling, so people just put some money, or they just throw a dart at a stock and say, right, okay, I'm going to invest in that company, and then it goes up and then they sell it. There's a lot of research and time spent. I spend a lot of time, look at the yield growth and the potential earning, and then compare, identify what's happening in the news as well regarding that stock before investing in a company. Now, the next question I want to ask you, how can companies become Sharia compliant? Do they need to apply to a certain body or get a certification of some sort?
The companies, number one, okay, there are a huge number of companies listed on stock exchanges all over the world which are already Sharia compliant. It is only for us to know and identify those companies. For example, Dow Jones has its Sharia screening methodology. When Dow Jones applies its Sharia screening methodologies on global stocks, it comes up with a Sharia universe of about 1,700 stocks. So these are Sharia compliant stocks which are available for Islamic investors to invest in. Who proclaims these stocks to be Sharia compliant? Dow Jones has got its own Sharia supervisory board, which has membership from Sheikh Taqi Usmani, who is a very well-known Sharia scholar from Pakistan, Sheikh Abdul Sattar Abu Ghudda, who is a very well-known Syrian Sharia scholar, Sheikh Daud Bakr, who is from Malaysia, Sheikh Muhammad Al-Gari, who is Saudi, and there are some other Sharia scholars as well. These Sharia scholars have helped Dow Jones to come up with its Sharia screening methodology. When Dow Jones team of analysts applies these Sharia screening methodologies to the stocks, they come up with a Sharia universe. Similarly, other companies like S&P has got its own Sharia screening methodology, and it has its own Sharia universe. MSCI Bara is another company which has come up with its own Sharia universe based on its Sharia screening methodology. And of course, here in United Kingdom, FTSE has its own Sharia universe.
Right, and where is that listed? Is that not like in a newspaper they would actually say these are the Sharia compliant, or you have to actually go online and...
Information on the Sharia compliant stocks is available on the websites of these organizations. The best thing would be to Google. You Google Sharia screening stocks, for example, and you will find hundreds of web pages which would lead you to the relevant
Now,
information.
regarding to what Tamkin was saying, just Muslim-owned businesses that are not Sharia compliant,